Hello all, I hope you can hear me and the fan in the background doesn't interrupt too much or interfere too much on this important video. But I want to talk about, I'm going to be talking in code words, and this is going to be a part 1 on YouTube, and I'm going to try to do a part 2 on BitChute, where I can talk more candidly. A lot more people are awakening to the thing. And maybe that the thing wasn't real after all, and the thing was made up all along, and that the thing is a mass deception, and that while people passed away, it wasn't caused by the thing. It may have been caused by something else. I'm not claiming this to be fact, but there are researchers and scientists now discovering there is no proof of the thing. We are being led, I feel, under a great mass gaslighting, the mass gaslighting of the United States and of the world. And what is gaslighting? I've done a video about this before because I do have a therapy mental health background, but I am from now on doing all of these readings, and it has been always on my channel, but from now on in my life, doing things as a spiritual healer, life coach who happens to have a background in mental health. Gaslighting essentially means you know what your reality is, you know what's going on, but the abuser keeps telling you you don't know, and your reality is not real, that your reality is fake, that you must have misunderstood. So an example of one-on-one gaslighting is, I've done in my other video, narcissistic gaslighting, when I talked about relationships that were like that. An example of that, which I dealt with actually in my marriage when I was married, is when somebody says to you, like for instance, they're cheating on you, right? And then you confront them with evidence that you find that they're missing at night, they're showering right before they leave the house every day and looking extra fresh or nice or whatever. And you confront them and they say, oh, you're crazy. You're crazy. That's an example of gaslighting. And then you start questioning your reality. Am I crazy? Instead of questioning them, they put the attention on you. So this is kind of what's happening in the collective right now with the thing. We are being massively gaslighted, and they're attempting to gaslight especially those who are awakening. So an awakened person saying, something doesn't seem right here. Why would it be that people have to stay 6 feet apart, when they're walking, but when they're sitting, they can sit right on top of each other in a restaurant without something covering their face for the thing? What does that make any sense? And then the authorities will say, oh no, but you're crazy, you're a denier, you're an anti, whatever. You don't understand, you're nuts, those people are crazy, they're selfish, they don't care about people dying. That's an example of gaslighting. That's emotional abuse. It's basically like hurling insults at somebody who has a valid question, right? And those who are awakened and who are in the process of waking up people are attempting to gaslight them, right? But with people who are truly awake, it ain't working. It ain't working, honey, because you can gaslight me as much as you want. I've already dealt with that in a personal scenario before. I know exactly what it is. So if you try to do that to me collectively, I'm going to throw it right back in your face. Don't you dare try to manipulate me. And what we're seeing is not just gaslighting with the elites doing it to the common peon people, but we're also seeing other people do it to each other. And I think that's probably the most heartbreaking, worst part of this, is the gaslighting that the brainwashed sheep are doing to the awakened. So essentially what you will see in this scenario is, let me just adjust how I'm sitting. This is, okay, that's more comfortable. Essentially what we're seeing in that scenario is people saying, oh, it's good for you, just take the shot, it's good for you, just listen to the authorities, it's good for you, it's okay to take masks off when you're sitting on top of each other, but public transportation, you can ride it all day long and nothing will happen to you, but God forbid you stand closer than 6 feet apart. God forbid you don't cover your face when you're walking in a store. It's the cognitive dissonance and the lack of understanding that one thing doesn't make sense without the other. Like, oh, why do you need a curfew for something? Does it suddenly get more contagious after a certain curfew? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of thinking that those who are brainwashed are under, right? And we're not saying that anybody's not dying. There are people dying, and God rest their souls, Goddess rest their souls. That is a horrible thing. But what they are specifically dying from is where people are being deceived. And there are multiple scientists that have put their jobs on the line, doctors who have put their jobs on the line saying, hey, wait a minute, this looks like something else. This doesn't look like the thing. It looks like poisoning from waves going through the air with what's going on right now, which actually is not contagious. If you'd like to hear more information about that, go to my Patreon where I discuss the book written by Mr. Fistenberg. I'm not going to say the title just in case the algorithm picks this up. So if you want to learn more about that, what certain scientists and doctors are thinking that are putting their jobs on the line, what is really causing these illnesses, it's something entirely different than what they're claiming it is. So the people who believe the, the authority, who believe the entire, narrative, like they think that, the elites were ever there for them from the beginning, like they never have been, and all of a sudden they care about people, come on, right? The sheep are also participating in gaslighting because they attack the awakened and say, you're nuts, you're selfish, you're nuts, you're nuts, you're nuts. Every time you have a valid point that's backed up by scientists or doctors who disagree with the narrative, you're called crazy. And that, my friends, is gaslighting. So how do you counteract gaslighting? The only way to counteract gaslighting is to either block people out of your life who react that way to you, or to use gray rock. That's something that I actually teach a lot on the psychic hotline and the advice and life coaching line and therapy stuff that I do, because I get a lot of calls about people who are dealing with narcissistic abuse, which is mostly emotional abuse. It's not physical. It's like manipulation. And men and women do it alike. There's women who do it to men, or women who do it to women, men who do it to men. The majority of calls I get are from women, of course, but that doesn't mean that men don't deal with it too on their own level, because I do get calls from men doing it. Usually when the woman's being manipulated, it's for sex or money. When the man is being manipulated, it's usually more so for money. So manipulation is manipulation. It doesn't matter, essentially what I'm trying to say. So my advice always is to cut the person off or use gray rock. I was just talking about this when I took a walk outside the other day, because I don't want to be stuck in my apartment all day long. I only go to do my class a couple times a week to check in at the school. So the rest of the week, I'm kind of doing remote. So when I was talking on the phone the other day, and I was taking my nice little walks and some out near more nature than New York has, thank God. It's so much better in that sense, because New York is just getting nuts. As I've been telling you, New York is the example of what this shit has done to people, what the restrictions have done, what poor policy has done, what a stupid mayor has done, what poor leadership has done, and what brainwashing has done. I mean, New York is the perfect example of that right now. It's terrible. And I say this as somebody who lived there 10 years. So anyways, if you talk about what is gray rock, right? When somebody is doing narcissistic abuse, which is mostly emotional abuse and manipulation, what is gray rock? Gray rock is basically not feeding the beast. Narcissist is kind of like a rabid dog that needs a bone, right? Or needs to bite somebody. But they don't come across as rabid, right? They come across as more insidious usually, but inside that's what they are. So essentially what you do with that person, or those people who are attacking you for your beliefs, if you do voice your beliefs, is you just change the subject entirely. You say, the weather is really hot out today, isn't it? Or if they don't like that and they say you're trying to change the subject, you just say, okay, I'm done with this conversation. Then you have to just shut it down. You can't even be polite by changing the subject. You just shut it down. And if they continue to try to contact you after that, you block them. So basically, block, gray rock. Gray rock is changing the subject to something boring. Blocking is obviously what it's called, blocking. Those are the two ways, unfortunately, to deal with narcissistic gaslighting and abuse. If this is a person that you can't escape, like a family member, like a brother or sister, or somebody who's like rude to you about your views, just avoid them. Avoid them as much as you can, or use the tactic of changing the subject to things that are boring, or ask them about themselves. Narcissistic people love to talk about themselves. Anybody who attacks another person for their beliefs and says they're crazy, I don't care what they say, has a narcissistic tendency. Somebody who has to call somebody crazy for a valid belief or point brought up by a scientist or a doctor has a narcissistic tendency. And make no mistake, it's a widespread tendency in this world. I think most of us have some degree of self-centered tendency, but when it becomes toxic to the point where you have to put others down and call them crazy because they don't agree with you, then it becomes more narcissistic in nature. So that's the way to deal with it. But just open your eyes. We're being gaslighted on a major scale. And I would say maybe watch the news once a week or something, just to keep in touch with what's going on, because I actually wasn't watching the news at all, and that's why I didn't find out till the last minute about the new policy in NYC, and I was like, oh shit, I'm not dealing with that shit. I had already made the decision kind of to be out here anyways, so it just made that all the more easy to fully be okay with that decision to be out here, you know, and to pursue something else, you know, slowly. So it is what it is. We are being manipulated, we are being gaslighted, we're not being offered a difference of opinion as well. In science, and any type of science, whether it's mental health, which is a social science, or, you know, biology, physical science, whatever it is, chemistry, there always is supposed to be a valid differing opinion that is entertained, that is respected, and that is not happening right now. There is one narrative that's accepted, one narrative that's being drilled down people's throat, and one narrative that people are believing. There's no difference of opinion, and if any scientist or doctor brings up a differing opinion, they're completely shot down. So when we're dealing with the thing that I can't say because it's YouTube, we have to really critically think and understand when we're being looked at in the eyes, we're being told a narrative for others' benefit, because it benefits them a whole lot to give people something experimental that could cause health problems down the road, that benefits other people, that helps them with their agenda. And we have to look and see if we are being gaslighted, if we are being misled and made to feel crazy for something that is valid, what's the motivation behind it? Because it's certainly not to help us, it's to help the ones at the top. So start to question everything, accept nothing until fully proven, and that means all sides agree or most sides agree, and there's not a huge screaming differing opinion with evidence. Research all sides. Do not believe one side 100%. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like your own spiritual reading, life coaching session or therapy session or counseling session, whatever you want to call it, which will be done as a life coach. If you'd like an astrology chart, if you'd like a tarot reading, incantation, spell, spirit channeling, whatever you want. I think I already said astrology chart. Go to naomitarot.com, and naomitarot1199@gmail.com is where I prefer to get responses for that stuff. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, nobody can gaslight you without your consent. You can shut it down right away. Bye-bye.